This is Allegedly in Alberta, powered by Streamlabs Talk Studio with the Alberta Indigenous Alliance.
Good evening, it's Darrin Thompson. This is Allegedly in Alberta. It is Tuesday. Let's get started. As always, like, subscribe, across the board. Find us on Rumble, find us on Kick, find us on Facebook, and of course YouTube. And follow us at all those platforms. You can also find us on TikTok at Allegedly in AB, and you can shop our merchandise and apparel at abpoly.ca. Want to donate? Go to co-fi.com/abpoly. So we're going to kick it off with mandates, and here is Alberta Education Minister Nicolaides.
I'm very proud to announce that I've received a new mandate letter from Premier Smith that directs me to focus on preparing students for the future, directs me to continue to support our world-class education system, preserve parental rights, and strengthen accountability within the education system. Over the next few years, I'll be working to expand grant funding for students in high-demand fields, launching a campaign to promote trades and apprenticeship education, and create a new online career counseling tool for students and parents alike. We will also be working to advance a high school apprenticeship model inspired by Germany by building mobile career and technology labs and continuing to roll out our new K-12 curriculum with a strong focus on developing life skills and financial literacy. My new mandate letter also focuses on expanding mental health supports, improving services for students with complex needs, and negotiating a new childcare agreement with the federal government that is affordable, fair, and most importantly, puts Alberta in control. I will also be working to strengthen parental rights and supporting Alberta's diverse education system and ensure that policies protect children while respecting families. We'll be working to introduce a universal code of conduct for school board officials to uphold free speech and accountability. This mandate letter is about more than just policy. It's about shaping a future where every child in Alberta has the tools they need to succeed and the freedom to thrive. Together, we're working to empower families, support educators, and prepare Alberta students to thrive today and for generations to come.
And that was Education Minister Demetrius Nicolaides, and that was a lot of information. Let's go into a little more detail in regards to the mandates and what does his mandate actually cover. So, of course, the mandate came from Premier Danielle Smith. First, thanking Nicolaides for their great work here in the province. Smith saying that, not us. So the establishing of policies for preserving choice for children and youth in schools, bringing forward amendments to the Education Act on key areas including teacher discipline processes and trustee accountability. Fast-tracking more school projects through the Schools Now program, committing $8.6 billion to create over 200,000 new and updated schools, student spaces across Alberta over the next 7 years. And we did a look in the major projects here. A lot of capital projects on the go. This money going here, this money going there. And let's just share the page here so you can see what we're looking at. And you can always find this information, major projects. Let's just give that right in the chat so everyone can see, and you can go do your search if you want to do that. So you can find it all at majorprojects.alberta.ca. And when we look at the major projects, details, we'll just take one here. New high school in West Calgary. Let's just share the page here so you can see what we're seeing. And there we go. So construction of a new high school in West Calgary. Upon completion, the school will be able to accommodate 1,230 students in grades 10 to 12. The school will be part of the Calgary Roman Catholic Separate School Division. So municipality, Calgary institutional school, schedule 0. No schedule on when this is going to take place. Estimated cost $81.5 million. So we've got a new K-9 school in Nolan Hill. This one at least has a schedule. It's currently under construction. It is scheduled to be figured out by 2027. So developer is Alberta Infrastructure. Contractor is Ellis Dawn Infrastructure Development. And so they're subcontracted, 100% employee owned and operated, safety, all that sort of stuff. And we're looking at what we do, our projects, our contact information. And so where is old Ellis Dawn located? Well, it's just so the corporate headquarters are Mississauga, Ontario. They do have a Calgary office, but they also have offices in the Middle East and North Africa. Halifax, Edmonton, Montreal, London, Ottawa, Toronto Industrial in Fort Sask, and Vancouver. So the corporate headquarters are in Mississauga, Ontario, and this is who the government is decided to utilize for their contractor for this project. Let's do one more here, just quickly if it'll load. Gotta love the government website that loads perfectly. Not. Another one. Modernized John Diefenbaker High School. The school is located in the Calgary School Division, holds 1,503 students from grades 10 to 12. Estimated cost of the project, $48.8 million. That's proposed in the stages. Schedule is 0 because it is not currently in project or anything. Really interesting work here. So all these things are fast-tracking the school projects through the School Now program. So Nicolaides said the design and implementation of an apprenticeship system similar to Germany's model for high school age students interested in pursuing vocational education and training in the skilled trades. Working cooperatively with the Minister of Advanced Education, design and launch an online career counseling website for students and parents to assist with career and education road mapping. Protect children by ensuring the full implementation of Bill 27, using all available legal and constitutional means necessary. So let's just go back to Bill 27 and see what we're really pushing for. And that's the Amendment Act. And it's a complex, of course, around the gender. Requests to be recognized by name or pronouns consistent with their gender identity. Student must be outed to their parents. So this is the one that's caused a lot of kerfuffle and is basically an attack on the students' rights. And of course, the biggest concern for this education minister, from direct mandate from the Premier, is to protect children by ensuring the full implementation of Bill 27, using all available legal and constitutional means necessary. Well, you know what one of those constitutional means necessary is? It's the notwithstanding clause, which means that the government of Alberta is ignoring the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which is opening up a huge can of worms in this province. But this government has opened up many cans of worms, and basically the worms are infesting the province. It's like a massive cemetery as you're watching the province crumble and die. Negotiate a new childcare arrangement with the federal government that's financially sustainable. So we'll ignore the $10 a day childcare that would have provided affordable childcare for everyone, and we're going to do our own thing that does not discriminate between nonprofit and for-profit providers in addressing growing wait lists and returns full control of childcare law and policy back to the province. You notice it says back to the province and not back to the parents. So for a premier and a government that is so against, you have to uphold our rights and you have to obey the rights and freedoms of our citizens, and Alberta has this and Alberta has that, they sure as heck don't give a rat's ass about the parents of Alberta. They're making this a hell of a lot difficult for parents. A lot of hoops to jump through. And while they're doing all this sort of making sure the province has input on everything, guess who gets the bill? It's the parents. So this isn't stopping your need for childcare. This is just putting another hurdle and eliminating a lot of red tape reduction to ensure that there's spaces for childcare, which are held by the private sector, but they're not following any of the regulations, or not any of the regulations. Many of them are not following the regulations, as we can tell from the private institutions of that providing childcare that had massive E. coli outbreaks and food contamination from their centers, that the owners were based in Texas and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Management was based in Alberta, but your ownership group was in the United States and in Saskatchewan. So that's what the province wants. They want less red tape, more privatization, more government control, less parental rights. Sounds, I don't know about you, but that kind of sounds pretty authoritarian. But all of the people here that are arguing for rights and freedoms, that were against masks and against vaxxes and against this and against that, they think that if we pick and choose who the authoritarian is a good thing. So we can trust Marlena Danielle Smith, the Premier of Alberta. We can't trust who's out east. We can't trust the federal government, which I would say is pretty bang on. However, you also can't trust who's here in this province. Because you see, red, blue, orange, it doesn't matter. They're all awful. All of them are awful. All of them ultimately will maintain the capitalist system to the detriment of you. Moving on. Working with the Minister of Advanced Education as lead to continue to champion the skilled trades and professions to ensure as early as junior high education track education track has parity of esteem as a desirable education pathway that will lead to highly rewarding careers. This includes giving junior and high school students increased exposure to trades education and employment opportunities. You know all those employment opportunities that don't exist in this province? Did you know that the province of Alberta has the second highest unemployment rate in the country, just under Newfoundland? Well, we've got lots of jobs for you. Get your education in Alberta. Great job market. Because we have the jobs and we have the economy and we can do this and we can do that. But all you have to do is give up all your rights and freedoms to the UCP government and the Premier, Danielle Smith. That's all you gotta do. They'll take care of everything. Don't worry about it. Just let them have every right and freedom of yours. They'll tell you, they'll make sure, like, it's going to be so easy for you to live because they'll just tell you what you need to do. Just follow the directions. Just follow the input these mandates are given. That's all you gotta do. What could go wrong? What could go wrong when you're following the mandates of people that only care about profit? What could go wrong in a province that is decimating its public healthcare system and public school system? And let's be real, there is no public school system. Because back in 2019, under former Premier Jason Kenney, then Education Minister Adrienne Lagrange, current healthcare minister. So her witch paws have been in the cauldron of crap since 2019. Anyway, one of the big things they did with Bill 8, or Bill Hate, as it was affectionately called, was remove the word public from all school boards. So you have the Edmonton School Board, you have the Calgary School Board, you have the Red Deer School Board, or you have the school divisions. You have the Wolf Creek School Division, you have the Chinook's Edge School Division. Know what's missing from there? Public. You know why it's missing? So then all schools have the same funding opportunities. So let's take a quick boo at what was presented as a private school initiative back in, was it 2016? I think it'll share it there. Just sit back and enjoy.
Class is in session. Please find a seat. You're here today to learn about private schools in Alberta. Who pays for them, who goes to them, and how they fit into Alberta's educational system. Sometimes you might see or hear headlines about private schools taking money from the public system. Is that true? In a word, no. This is how school funding works in Alberta. All Albertans pay taxes. This money goes into what is often called the public purse. Parents who choose to send their kids to a private school pay taxes too. Some of this tax money is used by the government to make sure all kids in Alberta get a good education. If your child goes to a public or separate school, the government takes about $13,000 out of the public purse to pay for that child's education each year. If your child goes to a private school, the government pays around $5,000 for that child's education. So every child that goes to a private school saves the public purse and Alberta taxpayers lots of money. In fact, in the last 5 years alone, private schools have saved taxpayers $750 million. Oh, and those savings don't include things like capital costs or Oh,
and those things all cost that now. Because you see, what was the private sector is now just the school sector. So all that money that you're saving doesn't exist anymore because it's all in the big kitty of the public system or just the school system in general. There's no public, there's no private, there's just the school system. So when we go with the Education Act and all these sort of things, one of those things they did was eliminate the word public. So then you just have a school system, not a private or public. But don't get me wrong. These religious and private institutions have the ability to create their own rules, have the ability to have a cash flow in regards to tuition on top of the funding that they get, and the fact that they're getting more funding. So at one point it was 70% compared to the public's 100%. That number has gone up drastically. And it's all for the benefit of parents, for choice, right? They want to give you the choice. Yes, they want to give you the choice of which terrible education can you get if you can't afford the private system. That's your choice. Your choice is go into debt to get every advantage that the private system has. And in this province, what the Christian or Catholic separate system has, or take your chances in the public school, which is underfunded and overloaded with students. There are options in the public system that you can possibly qualify for, but that's if the government maintains the funding or increases the funding, which, according to Nick Ladies, isn't something that they're interested in doing. You see, this government and the J.C. Kennedy government and the Rachel Notley NDP government and the Conservative government before them, they all asked the teachers to, you know what, we don't have the funds for you, so if you could take a zero raise, that would be great. So the teachers and EAs and your staff outside of administration have all been taking zeros. So when they come to you with that number going over to the 12% or 17% raise, you have to calculate that based on, number one, it doesn't even reach the cost of living. Number two, it's not even touching the decade plus that these teachers have been taking nothing and spending their own money to make sure that the schools, because there was no funding for the schools. There's funding for a new hockey rink in Calgary. There's funding for XYZ oil company. There's funding for this blue ribbon panel and this advisor and that project. But your education, it doesn't need the funding. What do we need education for? Oh, right, because the new mandate is we're going to educate ourselves like Germany. Let's take a quick boo at the German education system and see what we have here. So updated in April of 2025, which is 100 times better than what the Alberta government is updating their stuff on. Anyway, let's share the screen here and let you have a boo of what we're reading as well. So on this page is public spending on education. The financing of education from the public purse is currently based on the following arrangements. Most educational institutions are maintained by public authorities. They receive the greater part of their funds from public budgets. Certain groups undergoing training receive financial assistance from the state to finance their living expenses and education in order to develop their talent and skills. So when we look at the first step of the funding is early childhood education and care. So you know how the UCP government is talking about how they're going to work on getting some child care from the federal government? Well, if they're going to go with the German system, they have to make sure that they start from an early age. So it's like the Success by 6 or your Success Start programs. Publicly maintained daycare centers for children maintained by the local authorities are financed by the local authority, by the land subsidies to cover personnel and material costs, and through parental contributions. Meanwhile, daycare centers are privately maintained by churches, parents, and initiatives. In 2024, according to the financing statistics, the public sector earmarked $46.5 billion euro for early childhood education and care. So $46.5 billion for early childhood education and care. So compared to the previous year, which was 2023 at that point, they planned the public budget expenditure increased by 5.9%. The increase in expenditure is closely linked to expansion of childcare places children under or until they enter school. The Federation, the Lander, the local authorities agreed in 2007 to progressively establish quality and needs-oriented daycare services for children under 3 years of age and daycare centers and child minding services until 2013. The Child Promotion Act from 2008 regulates, amongst other things, the financial aid provided by the Federation to expand daycare for children by setting up a child care expansion special fund. Since August 1st, 2013, all children from the age of 1 have had legal right to early childhood education in a daycare center or child minding service. So if we're going to quote German systems and we're going to do this for the high school, you can't do that just for the high school. You have to start it from birth. So if we're going to play this, oh, German has this great system. Yes, they have a great system because they start the system early childhood education and care. So there's your first thing. So if you're going to do that and compare to Germany, they earmarked $46.5 billion and did a almost 6% increase in funds from the budget from the previous year. So Danielle Smith, UCP government, Nicolaides, where are the funds? They had $80 million to give to this program or $90 million to go to Tylenol. Do you have funds for an early child care education? Because that's the only way your investment or looking at going into a German system is going to work. If you try to just do it from a high school sector, they don't have the program. There's no promotion in there, right? Like this whole thing about the German system is about putting you on a pathway. So if you're going to do that, I have no problem if you want, there's kids that are really excited and interested in working in trades, we need trades. We need all sorts of different jobs and careers. But if you're going to start the child on that, you have to start everyone with funding for childcare and a early childhood education. So you want to go Germany? There's your goal. That you're going to have to up the funds. So we just started there, and that was childcare, right? So you go to the next step, which is your primary education. And according to 2024, the public sector earmarked 93.7 billion euro for general and vocational schools, with the Länder share amounted federally at 72 billion or 76.8%, and local authorities at 20.4 billion or 21.8% of expenditure. Or would be the Länder share would be the provincial share, and then the federal expenditure amounted to 1.3 billion or 1.4%. So of course, in that system, the German system is getting less federal funding, but the tax collection and everything, it's not like the Canadian system where the feds provide the funding and then you are supposed to allocate it. So it's like you get the funding, but you also have to allocate it and you have to manage it. And currently we're looking at how this government manages money, I don't think you can do the German system. Well, at least do it that's going to be beneficial to anyone. You can put everyone into a German system, but if you don't fund it, then it's just going to be another failure of your education plan, like everything else you've done currently. So then you go from that to your secondary and post-secondary non-tertiary education. And pupils between 10 to 12 and 15 to 16 years of age, and upper secondary levels of pupils between 15 and 16, 18 to 19 years of age. And so that's when you're looking at the standards of their education system, but their education system's already been properly funded from the get-go, right? So you guys want to go and jump into this whole thing of the vocational schools and the vocational training in the dual system, but the dual system only works when you have funded primary and early childhood. Other than that, these kids are just set up for failure yet again. And you're going to tear down the current system, build this thing up, and it's not going to work because you're not properly funding your education. You say you're funding the education, but as a parent that watched one child go through outreach high school, and now our youngest currently in junior high, the funding's not there. And you're not paying the teachers, and you're playing this game. You're going to spend how many millions of dollars on an ad campaign saying the teachers are greedy when they've all taken zeros for over a decade? We can tell you the truth, which we do. Like I said, we're not Willy Wonka. We don't sugarcoat shit here. We talk about, we have the hard conversations in the comfortable environment. So we'll leave the German for now and just know that you've got a lot of funding to cover before you can even remotely take a sniff at looking at the German model. And the shortening of the time it takes to an individual with a degree to trade certification become certified to teach in the K-12 education system here in Alberta. So if you look at young teachers, there isn't a major stumbling block for, they don't need to be fast-tracked. Like if you look at someone here in central Alberta that's going to Red Deer Polytechnic, they get their education mostly in Red Deer, but is a secondary course that goes through the U of A. And then they finish their teaching degree at the U of A. So they do 2 years in Red Deer and then their last 2 at the U of A. So they have a 4-year program or a 3-year program. And most of these young teachers are easily employed in the communities that they grew up with or grew up in, because they're already connected to those others. And if you're looking at here in central Alberta, if you have Red Deer RDC, which is now RDP, on your education, you're at the top of the list, because most teachers here that are younger are RDP alumni. And that's what they want. They want the RDP alumni. They want the people that have gone from their whole education and be the success story. So that's not the problem with fast tracking. You fast track students to become teachers, then there are going to be some ones that aren't following the guidelines or aren't learning, aren't having the work experience and the practicums that are needed to be able to take on a classroom. And they wouldn't have the experience of being in these oversized classrooms, which means that when they get out of school and go into a practicum, or they get out of school and they're going directly into the workforce, they're going to be overwhelmed, and you're going to have people burnt out quicker, and you're going to have to increase the funds for your medical coverage and healthcare, and especially mental health, for your instructors, your educators, your educating assistants, your entire education staff. We all know that you don't give a rat's ass about mental health in this province. Oh, you're not healthy mentally? Let's lock you up. Oh, you're an addict? Let's lock you up. Yeah, our friends from BC are running these programs. They're technically in BC, but they've got residents here in Alberta. So they're an Alberta-run program, but they've all been this system that was built by Marshall Smith and a conglomerate of grifters from BC and East, with all this whole thing of forced treatment with no aspect of harm reduction at all. Forced treatment, lock them up. Oh, you're a danger to society because you have mental health problems and our mental health system can't take you on because we underfund it. No, we're just going to lock you up. Oh, right. And when we lock you up, that means you also don't qualify for ADAP or AISH, because then AISH becomes ADAP. And if you're in a certified correctional facility or mental health facility, you don't qualify. And if you do qualify, it goes right to the facility. So, hey, welcome to controlled citizens. So hopefully you don't get out of line, or hopefully you don't have any sort of mental health concerns or have an episode or anything in this province, because you could just be locked up. Oh, but we don't have enough police to cover that. Oh, don't worry. We've gone and done an Alberta Next panel and talked about a provincial police force and how it would work so well. It's already implemented. Everything is already there. They're just going to slowly implement it or slowly bring it public. I tell you straight up that here in Lacombe, when we moved here over a decade ago, there was the Lacombe City Police Force or the occasional RCMP officer that was coming from Ponoka or Black Falls. Now, they're the Lacombe City Police. They're the sheriffs. They're the peace officers. And they're the RCMP. In a community of 15,000 people. Don't know why we need that many police services in a community of 15,000 people. And we have very limited homeless and those sort of aspects, because any of the homeless that we have in Lacombe, we get shipped into Red Deer because we don't have the facilities to take care of them. So the Red Deer's problem. We need all those police officers. Got to keep the peace. Got to make sure that no one steps out of line. Got to make sure that no one seems to have critical thinking or any sort of thought that goes against what we're being drilled in our heads on a daily basis. I don't know about you, but I go back to the latest design t-shirt on our website, abpoli.ca, and Magda Goebbels made a great strudel. And why do we say Magda Goebbels made a great strudel? Because that was a propaganda the Nazis used. You know, Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's right-hand man, while Magda was a beauty who was used like good housekeeping to promote the fascist regime, while showing how she was such a beautiful wife and mother to their kids, as well as being #1 arm candy for the mustachio Adolf there. Because he's not married and had a relationship, but Goebbels, she had no problem being on his arm for any of the special events, the balls, all the things to celebrate how great he is. How great. It's like someone thinking something's great started in the 1930s and 40s. Then went to the 1970s. And then went to 2016 and now 2025. We have a thing called Make Something Great Again. Alberta, America. All sounds very similar. And Magda Goebbels made a great strudel. So back to the bills here, or the mandate letters, I should say. So we had that from the Minister of Education. Well, let's go see what the Minister of Advanced Education got. So the Honorable Miles McDougall, which you don't hear jack squat from McDougall at all, had a great success doing nothing. Your success of investing $10 million over 3 years to expand mental health professional spaces in Alberta's post-secondary institutions, supporting student wellness and strengthening campus services, partnering with Alberta's established medical schools and other post-secondary institutions to develop new pathways for physician training. So you've done all this great stuff, but now we expect you to continue to champion the skilled trades and professions to ensure as early as junior high education track has plenty of parity of esteem as a desirable education pathway that will lead to highly rewarding careers. Again, you better have some money to travel, because your highly rewarding career sure as heck isn't in Alberta. As we mentioned earlier, Alberta has the second highest unemployment rate in the country. Only Newfoundland is higher. Continue to work with the Minister of Education and Childcare on development of a teaching certification program that will shorten the time it takes for an individual with a degree, diploma, or trade certification to become certified to teach in Alberta's education system. Again, you eliminate the time and you fast track these teachers, you're going to burn them out. Or you're going to have a number of incidents that you're going to need the mental health supports again, because overcrowded classrooms, underqualified teachers, kind of like a cocktail of some sort that could ignite. I don't know. Doesn't seem like a safe spot for either the new teachers or the students. Work with adult learning providers to expand online access to high-quality transfer credit opportunities for introductory level courses. So work with adult learning providers. See, a little while ago, like Jason Kenney's term, Alberta had part of their education system in the public system was based on access to learning programs funded provincially, funded publicly. Then they scrapped those programs and took the funding away. And now they're partnering with private partners who can provide this adult education that used to be free. Like you used to be able to go back to the outreach or the online, get your GED and finish your education. And now you have to pay for those programs. But the government wants to partner with these private institutions. Other thing about the private institution is there's no accountability for if they just close their doors. You're out your money. They're a business. They're not a certified, regulated under the advanced education system. They're just another business. But that's who we're going to rely on to provide education for adults or those that are done being in the public system or being in the before post-secondary, to go to post-secondary or to re-educate yourself to qualify for post-secondary. You have to pay to play now. Which, if you're looking at most people that are coming out it from either a early pregnancy or having to leave school due to financial concerns, this is just another financial burden on this person to get access to these things that could provide them with their GED or an equivalent, as long as that private institution stays open. If the private institution doesn't stay open, you're looking at the Better Business Bureau, not advanced education for compensation. Working with the Ministry of Justice, assess the needs for legislation that protects the academic freedom and freedom of expression in teachers and students working and learning at Alberta's post-secondary institutions. So, when they're talking about the freedom of speech, they're talking about only certain individuals have a freedom of speech. You see, if someone is support of the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people, those people are free to speak. However, if someone's speaking out against the monsters that are committing genocide and atrocities and basically should be thrown in the Hague for breaking every international law, that speech is not free. That speech is considered hate speech, and that speech will get you visited by multiple members of authority. But the other speech, that's protected. And that's what they want. They want to protect that speech. They want to protect the capital. That's the free speech they want to protect. They don't want to protect the average citizen. They don't give a rat's ass about the citizens of Alberta. They care about the consumers of Alberta. So as long as you're a consumer that just does everything that the government asks you to do, and you say, yes, sir, no, sir, and you're just polite, and you just go along with the flow, and just follow orders, everything's good. If you actually use some integrity and some critical thinking, then things are going to be difficult for you. You see, free thought is only free and only valid when the thoughts are the same thoughts that are shared by the authoritarian or the robber barons or the elite, whatever term you want to use. So as long as the capitalist performative leaders of this province and the country are happy, and as long as you play nice and don't say anything bad against these leaders or their government, everything's okay. In theory. I mean, of course, the place is crumbling around you. If you need health care, it's gone. If you need education, no, you don't get an education. You get fast-tracked, and it's just chaos. But everything is controlled by the government. You know, like rights and freedoms. You know, your right to have free speech. We don't have that really. It's a Charter of Rights and Freedoms. It's not the Constitution here. But we used to have freedom of assembly. Well, Jason Kenney took that away in Bill 1. And that's what the government wants you to do, is they want you to plan your assembly now, so then they can counter plan how many helpers to ensure that nothing gets out of hand will be on hand on behalf of the authority. But you still have all your rights and freedoms. You have the right to say everything. You got a right to speak your mind. Just know if you speak your mind the wrong way, the consequences are harsh. I'm a prime example of that because I spoke out against this government, and this government targeted me and continue to target me. And on top of the government, well, then we have all the people that are progressives that are targeting me as well. Anyway, that's my personal thing. So when we're looking at rights and freedoms, yes, I can speak freely on this platform, but it doesn't mean that there's no consequences for what I'm saying tonight. Because what I'm saying is the truth. And what you need to understand, and we continue to ensure that we want you to understand, and we continue to say the same thing over and over and over again, hoping that it sticks. It isn't right. It isn't left. It's us versus them. Us are the working class. Them are the elite. They hold all the power. They hold all the control. And they want to continue to hold all the power and all the control. And they'll let you have a semblance of rights and freedoms as long as you don't speak ill towards what they're doing. If you go along with them, you've got all the rights and freedoms that they will give you. If you speak out against them, you don't have the rights and freedoms anymore. See how it goes? And again, those rights and freedoms are a sliding scale. So if you are following every guideline and doing everything that Marlena Daniel Smith is telling you to do, and everything's good, but there's one thing or something's off or whatever, and you step out of line, oh boy, it's not going to be good for you. Continuing on. Work with the Minister of Technology and Innovation, who is the lead in implementing a modernized intellectual property framework to ensure Alberta taxpayers benefit from publicly funded post-secondary research through fair returns and commercialization outcomes. So that goes back to that AI. So if you haven't heard or the news wasn't there, there's an AI plant or an AI factory, so artificial intelligence, that is looking to be built in the Grand Prairie area. And they are basically ignoring the Indigenous rights or the treaty rights of the Indigenous peoples that are around that area. And if you're not aware, artificial intelligence takes a lot of water and a lot of power to provide you with all those awful memes and those terrible pictures and artwork with the weird fingers and everything that you can tell it's AI. But at least it looks good, and at least you have something funny to show. Won't have any drinking water. Your power bill's going to go through the roof because the government's not going to control that. And Kevin O'Leary is the owner, and you know that he is all about making sure that his soldiers, his dollars, are protected. So any investment that he makes, and the deal was made in Qatar, or Qatar, whichever way you want to pronounce it, that their funds are coming here. So he's getting the funding from the Middle East to build this AI plant, this AI center, and going to take up a bunch of water. So the people of Grand Prairie are going to struggle. People of Valley View are going to struggle. Most likely the people of Peace River are going to struggle. Might even go into British Columbia and the Dawson Creek or Fort St. John. Beaver Lodge is going to struggle, of course, because it's just outside Grand Prairie. All that area is going to struggle because one entity is going to take all the water from the area. And the water is just used to cool the system. That's not even looking at how high the energy used to operate the system, which then will skyrocket, which will then cause brownouts and will overheat the power grids, which haven't been replaced in hundreds of years. So we just keep plugging, like, I don't know about you, but the government seems to think that we have like this giant power bar. That's what our grid is. It's just a power bar. It's like at home. So if you plug in too many things in a power bar, that's a dangerous, dangerous thing. You put too many things in a surge protector, at least there's protection if a surge happens or if something happens. You've got insurance. Regular power bar, you don't have insurance. So when this AI factory is up and running and is squeezing all the energy from the area, and they're like, okay, well, we just have to plug more things into this grid. Grid's going to overheat, grid's going to whatever. Like, there's going to be brownouts, there's going to be things, it's going to be uncomfortable. But do you know what's not going to stop? That AI factory. Because it's going to have all the bells and whistles to make sure it can run nonstop while you hold the bag. So that was just two of the many, 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 many mandates that are out there. Here's the link to the mandates if you want to check them out. And read them yourself. I urge you. It's awful reading. But just know that these things that are discussed in these mandates are all the bills that were pushed through under a rubber stamp from the Lieutenant Governor. So the government will go back to work on October 23rd. There is a protest or day of action on the 25th at the Ledge. Urge everyone to go for that. And yeah, we got to keep fighting and make sure that we keep educating people, because I don't know if you were aware of the information we're giving you tonight, but this is what we're facing. This is the stuff that's being censored. These are the things, like if you go onto TikTok and follow Nitty Knits, Nitty has gone through some documentation where allegedly a former premier of Alberta started a healthcare system, premier, and that system is now having funds funneled from our public system into that system. So Nitty Knits has that information there, and you can support them there. You can support us across the board, like I said. Purchase the merch, abpulley.ca. And congratulations. You survived the rapture. But it's still time to release the Epstein files. We'll see you next week.
This has been Allegedly in Alberta. Authorized by Alberta Accountability Alliance, abpulleyca@gmail.com.